Star Wars Dark Forces was made in 1995 and the PlayStation port in 1996, and I went on for years never knowing it existed. But then one day in middle school, best guess probably 2007, I found this game at a half-price books, which for those of you who don't know, it's a bookstore that sells other things like comics, movies, games, etc. I know I barely started my talk on Dark Forces, but if you haven't been to half-price books, you should go. It's neat. Please sponsor me, Half-Price Books. Anyway, I found this Star Wars game and knew I was going to a birthday party soonish, and I didn't get the kid a gift, so I was like, neat. I know he has a PlayStation, I know he likes Star Wars, so I bought it. And then I just kept staring at it and wondering what it could be like. And then curiosity got the best of me. I decided to open it, but just to read the manual. And then I saw the items and the enemies, and I got more curious. And okay, I'll play it once. You'll never know. So I put it in, and I was greeted to a sort of Doom clone, but also not a Doom clone at all. Not only did it use a different engine, but the way it did its levels was different as well. You could also look up and down. I fell in love with the game so fast. I decided to keep the game for myself, and I bought him something else for his birthday last minute. So yeah, douchebag move for sure. But in my defense, I was in middle school. I didn't have a lot of money to buy games. And more importantly, I'm not even friends with that kid anymore. But I still have this game. Which might also point to me being a bad friend, but instead of diving into that, let's talk about this game. Dark Forces takes place before A New Hope, and you play as Kyle Katarn. Kyle is an ex-Empire, now Rebel soldier. You and your pilot, Jan Ors, who flies you from each mission and makes the game less lonely, and always makes you excited to see her again at the end of each mission. It's like a breath of fresh air. After all the stress of going through the mission, to see her, well, you don't see her, but you see the ship, you're just like, oh, it's over. I mean, you do see her, but you just really only see this picture of her. The cutscenes are dated, but they still get the point across. Also, Kyle looks much different on this game than he will in all the other games. Which brings me to another point. This is the first game in a whole series, and I will be covering that whole series, but one game at a time. Back to the missions. Each mission is a self-contained story that overall leads to a bigger plot. Like one mission, you may be investigating some deaths, and you find out it was Dark Troopers, which leads to another mission about learning more about the Dark Troopers, and so on and so forth. And what are Dark Troopers? Well, they're special Empire troopers that are killing machines, and this was the game that introduced them. And they have jetpacks. And once again, that they fly now, quote, is so goddamn stupid, and this is yet another reason why. Because they were flying all the way back then, too. Anyway, they're led by General Mock, M-O-H-C, and they have multiple phases of them that can be fought. The first level has you steal Death Star plans. And yeah, I know it's not canon anymore because Rogue One exists, but it was still cool. And each level after that has its own directive to help them feel not the same. Some of my favorite levels being Nar Shaddaa and Jabba's ship. Spoiler, and there will be spoilers throughout. One level you are kidnapped, have all your weapons taken away, and have to fight a beast in Jabba's pit. The game is a lot of fun and mostly does Star Wars scenes and enemies really well. You can tell there's a lot of love in it. Like, remember these shits from A New Hope? And all the troopers and aliens are looking great. And you fight Boba Fett. Now, I said this is mostly Star Wars. Well, the only thing I have to complain about is this is supposed to be Coruscant. Now, I get it, this is before the prequels introduced it to the film, but this is basically a totally different place. And you know what? While I'm paused from sucking this game's dick, let me give a few more complaints. This game doesn't teach you how to play it well. Crouching is a mandatory thing, yet the game doesn't teach it. On PC, it's just the letter C, so like, I'll excuse you on that, because you can just press buttons and find it, right? But on PlayStation, it's L2 and triangle at the same time. I couldn't figure it out, so I had to download a manual to look it up, which also taught me that some of the weapons have a secondary shot that's different from the primary. And I played all these years and never knew. And how to use that is LT and square. Another complaint is how easy it is to get stuck. I always try to play without looking up a guide, but in this case I had to do it multiple times. Usually, it was just I missed a well-hidden area by accident, but in my defense, everything can kind of look the same. Also, there's a lot of puzzles to solve. While most of them are fine, some of them are really annoyingly tricky, and I'm not a guy who likes puzzles. Know that going into this game won't be easy. You'll be on your own to figure everything out. It's also dark a lot of times. I can see why it's called Dark Forces, because goddamn I cannot see. But that's okay, because they give you gadgets and tools to deal with that depending on the level. Battery does drain fast though, so use sparingly. So yeah, anyway, you have a ton of weapons. But 90% of the time, I use the Stormtrooper gun, as it does its job just fine for most encounters. None of the guns are really bad per se, except rockets maybe, but the guns work very similarly. And yeah, the game does let you look up and down, but you're using buttons to do that and not a joystick, and that feels a little bit dated. And honestly, yeah, the game is dated. Some genres date easier than others, but this one's still fun. It doesn't have multiplayer, and that's actually good in this case, as it's often easier to see the datedness of a game in multiplayer than single player when it comes to first-person shooters. The game sprites also aren't 3D, they're actually 2D, and you can notice that best on dead bodies as it follows you instead of letting you see it from other angles. And it can be a bit creepy. Also, the environment and way the enemies move works in a way where it feels like it's lived in, which is really cool. Like at one point, I kill some dudes who are peeing. Anyway, the final boss is the general in a dark trooper outfit, and when you kill him, in true Star Wars fashion, you are rewarded a medal, but Jan, she doesn't get one. Because why would the whole party get a medal? Anyway, I really enjoy this game, and though the series gets far better than this game, this first entry is still worth a play. Just expect to get stuck a few times. Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 is the second game in the Jedi Knight series, following right after Dark Forces. The game came out in 1997 and was a bitch to get to run, plus to record it as well was tricky as fuck. Luckily I got the footage, but warning, it does flicker sometimes, and that isn't the game, that is the recording. You start off as Kyle Katarn again, but this time you are live action in all the cutscenes. The acting and effects are cheesy as fuck, but they have a special charm to them. However, it does make the game feel a little bit more dated. First level is Nar Shaddaa, and it is amazing. You got citizens running around, you got enemies, you got a cantina, and everybody looking like they do in the Phantom Menace game. And hell, a ton of the sound effects of the Phantom Menace video game came from here. But yeah, Nar Shaddaa, a fantastic level, not just as an opening, but overall just great. The civilians running around adds a life to the game that the first Dark Forces didn't. The game is in full 3D now, none of that 2D characters in a 3D world, and it controls so much better. Having lives are gone too, and you can just save at any time, which is wonderful. Unfortunately, Nar Shaddaa is the highlight level of the game, as none of the others really bring the same excitement as that first one.
Hey.
Also, these guys scream like Tusken Raiders, but they aren't. I would love your thoughts on that. Like, what are they? Are they like descendants of it? or something. A new thing about this game is you eventually get a lightsaber and the Force, which did not happen in the first Dark Forces. And the game is pretty good at making sure you still use your guns as well as your saber. The saber auto blocks lasers, but you gotta be close up to use it. But the guns, you can often get shots off before your enemy if you're quick enough. The puzzles, however, are just as annoying as the first game, where often you will get stuck, and half the time it's because things look the same or you missed an area. The other half the time you're stuck, it's because the levels don't fucking make sense. Let me see if I can explain. Imagine you come up to a house and you want to go in. You'd most likely go for the door, maybe a window, right? Well, in this world of the game, the correct way to get inside might be a fucking tree. Now, this isn't actually something that happens, but that's the kind of shit you're gonna have to deal with in the levels. You often have to try things that don't make sense to figure out how to get places. There is a cool market area, and a tactical droid. I said I only knew it from Demolition, but nah, I guess this did come first. When you aren't doing the normal levels, the boss levels are there to break up the monotony, and they usually require you to spam lightsaber attacks, try to weave in and out, or just use tricks and powers to defeat them. In some ways it almost feels random if you win or not, but there is a timing to it. Graphically, the game looks better in some areas, but worse in others. The stormtroopers, for example, look far worse than they did in the first game, but things like R2 units, which are new, they look great. The C-3PO droid always looks like he flexing though. And it's also honestly cool to see Jan as a live action character and not a picture this time. But for everything I love about the game, there's always something I don't. Like, it's often confusing and half the levels look the same. It can also get laggy at some parts, but I guess that could be my computer, because I did have a Trojan on my laptop while playing this, and it is gone now. The game is for PC only, sadly, but you can buy it on Steam for pretty cheap, and it comes with the expansion pack, which I'll talk about in a different video. Also, these beasts are back. Also, let's talk about how Kyle looks. Actually, let's not. AT-ATs are back to fight as well, and one of the things I forgot to mention is that you can be dark side or light side. It depends on what you do in the game, who you kill, where you put your points. If you are dark side, you give into the dark side and kill Jan. And why the fuck would I do that? Even if I was dark side, I have no reason to kill Jan. She didn't do anything against me. Like, just to show I'm evil? Like, the fuck? She's my only friend. Literally, my only friend. I always play games like that just however, and see how I end up, and in this case, I went the canonically good way. This involves fighting a man who won't stop jumping. Here's a hint, use Force Protect. It is the best power in the game. And it involves you fighting Jarek, an overly evil villain of the game, and then that's the game. Overall, Star Wars Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 improves a lot from that first one, but at the same time it goes backwards. Like, the cutscene cheese really did affect my interest in the story, and the frame drops did hurt my opinion of the game. However, I still think it's a good game, it's a fun game, and the lightsabers, the Force, the better aiming, the civilians, it went in a new direction and an important one for the series from this point on. Hey, please make sure to like and subscribe. I'll be doing a video on the other games in this series. And if you haven't yet, check out my video on the original Dark Forces game. Star Wars Dark Forces 2 Mysteries of the Sith is an expansion pack for Dark Forces 2. A very long expansion, being the length of the full Dark Forces 2 game. But with way less of a budget and far less time developing it. Now, with the loss of a budget, we also lose the live-action cutscenes for these in-game cutscenes. We also have Reno Romano as Kyle Katarn, and he's doing his usual voice thing.
Excellent, Mara. You're becoming very adept at using the Force to anticipate my actions.
As much as I love him as Spider-Man or Ricky Maru, I just do not feel his voice fits Kyle Katarn. You play as Kyle for the first 4 levels, and then the rest of the time you play as Mara Jade, who Kyle has taken under his wing to train. Now, I don't know anything about Mara Jade, but I was excited to learn about her. Unfortunately, I don't think the game taught me anything about her. Also, I apologize for the flickering. I promise that isn't the game. I just always end up with some issue when recording old PC games. I just needed to bring that up so that you know it's not the game's fault, because I am about to complain a bunch of stuff that is the game's fault. I hate this game. I hate it a lot. It literally runs like Dark Forces 2, so it's not the controls I hate. For me, it's the level design. While Dark Forces 2 was already confusing on where to go and what to do, Mysteries of the Sith takes it to an absolutely new level of stupidity, constantly making it purposefully difficult to know where to go or what to do. Like, for example, where I need to go is on this wall. Did you see it? How about now? Or now? It looks like I should be going this way, but it is on this wall. Are you ready for where it is? Here. Right fucking here. It blends in so goddamn well. I spent so much time looking for it, and it was here. Or this spot where you have to make a super specific jump, one that can be failed so easily. I thought, oh, maybe I'm just not supposed to make this jump. But then after looking all over the place for so fucking long, I was like, it's gotta be this. There's nothing else it could be. And I just kept missing the jump. But no, you gotta be real fucking specific if you want to get that jump. The game acts like you can't do it, but you fucking can. Now, one good thing I can say is that they do expand the game with new stuff. Like disguises, or they have this sniper rifle, but that's still not enough for me. The level design was so frustrating, I didn't want to finish the game. I took months off to have a break, figuring maybe it's just my attitude, maybe I just don't want to play the game right now. And then I beat 10 games in between there, dreading returning to this game, and at last I was ready to try again. I put my phone down, I shut internet off, I made sure I had absolutely nothing to do but play this game. No excuses. And after playing probably an hour upon returning, I just couldn't go on. I got halfway through the game and decided it's not worth it. I fucking quit. It wasn't difficult in a fun way, like a skill-based way or something. Nah, it was hard in the way of where the hell does the game want me to go? What the hell does the game want me to do? I don't even know if I would call it puzzles. I feel like they just made the game hard to figure out to pad out time. Which isn't uncommon in games like this, especially in the 90s. Dark Forces 2 also had weird level design, but not to this extent. In conclusion, I just want to watch someone else play through this, and I'm gonna move on to the next game. I'm not saying this game is bad, but I'm saying its level design is some of the worst I've ever dealt with, and I hate this game, and I will never play it again. Star Wars Jedi Knight Jedi Outcast just ditches the Dark Forces title, but it's still in the same series and you're still Kyle Katarn, and James is always with you. This had an overhaul, and it's using something called the Jedi engine now, and it's fantastic. It was made by Raven Studios, but the Xbox port was handled by another studio, and the Xbox port is a perfectly fine port, except for the cutscenes, which look like someone deep-fried them. The force powers and weapons and everything are honestly better than previous games. Well, almost everything is better than previous games. The level design is so incredibly stupid I quit multiple times and had to keep coming back after a long enough break. Dark Forces 1 had like some stupid shit, right? And then 2 also had some, but it wasn't as bad. But like, Mysteries of the Sith and this one just have some absolutely baffling, stupid level design, and I think it was done purposefully that way to confuse you. They figured players might like that, and maybe there are some who do. That's not for me. It's so not for me. Far too much was I wondering where to go, and it's not like I have creative freedom to make my own paths. Like, let's say there's a door that won't open, it's not like I can just cut down the door with a saber. No, I have to figure out what the game wants me to do. And, that's usually a puzzle, and it really hurt the game for me. Everything else was good, but this hurt it enough. I don't even know how to recommend it. Okay, so the plot is you don't have your powers, but you run into some dark Jedi. A dinosaur man named Desan and his apprentice Tavion. Now I really like this fight because Desan just kicks your ass and really shows you how much more powerful a Force user is. And then they kill Jans and leave. So Jans, who's been with you since game 1. She's like Kyle's love interest. Anyway, so Kyle's pissed. He's fucking angry. He's gonna go back to the Valley of Jedi and get his powers back and kill Desan. He stops to see Luke Skywalker, who's running a whole ass Jedi training facility. At one point you even fight side by side with Luke. Now, it turns out Jan is not dead, which is a weird twist. I guess they tortured her for information, but like, I don't know, it feels like a weird cop-out. They really played up Jan dying, and then I guess she wasn't. I really did like this fight against Tavion though. She was a challenge, and she killed me a few times. Speaking of which, so did Desan. The dinosaur final boss, he's just so big compared to you. And he's crazy strong and powerful. He can use 2 force powers at once, which is not something you can do. On top of that, there are these dudes called Reborns who have been granted the Force through the Valley of the Jedi, and you have to fight them. And even the Jedi and the Reborns fight at the end, which is cool. No Dark Troopers in this game, but we do have a new enemy, the Shadow Trooper. They're like fucking Force ninjas. And they're by far the hardest regular enemy in the game. Each time you fight one, it's sort of like fighting a mini-boss. In fact, I didn't die to the boss Galak Fryer even once. And he's like a main boss. But I lost many times to this one enemy. A lot of levels in this game are fine, but Nar Shaddaa can go fuck itself. It's a confusing ass mess. The game, it's a little buggy too, but also like, oh well, I guess. Also, Lando's in this game, and you have a nice ship you ride in. Also, every time Kyle and Jan kiss, it's just really awkward, and it looks not great. Anyway, this is a good addition to the series, and so many people say it's in the top 10 best Star Wars games. And hell, they even say it's the best in the Jedi Knight Dark Forces series. And to that I say, hell no. This is the next and final game, Jedi Academy, is the best. And not only will I make a video on it, I'll probably make it a really long one too. This one still is good though. Sort of. I don't know that I'll play it again. There's a lot I like about it, but I really hate that fucking level design. Oh shit, I almost ended the video and didn't talk about multiplayer. Okay, so Jedi Outcast has this really fun online, and you can still play it if you're on the PC version. You can't play it if you're on the Xbox version. It has a lot of skins and different, like, choices to creating your character to play. And you can do free-for-all, you can do teams, you can do capture the flag, and other modes. There's a duel mode where, like, it's sort of like a tournament, and whoever reaches the amount of wins needed wins, and it's one-on-one. But unfortunately, the bots are too broken for that to actually be fun unless you're playing online with other people. And even then, it can still be too broken because they might just stand there and do nothing, and then what? People online can really ruin the fun of games. It is a ton of fun to play, even if you're just going up against bots. The online is a lot of fun, and I might enjoy that even more than the single player, to be honest. Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Academy is my favorite of the Dark Forces Jedi Knight series, but it goes in a wildly different direction. See, this time you are not Kyle Katarn, which is a weird way to end this series, because you've been Kyle Katarn this whole time. This time, you are a Jedi student. You get to create a character who, no matter what, is named Jaden. I made a Keldor male, with the goal to kind of look like Plo Koon, with an orange saber. We're flown on a ship with a bunch of other Jedi students. Unfortunately, we are paired up with the most annoying student, Rosh.
Aren't you excited? We're going to be Jedi!
Here we get shot down by something, and we have to make our way to the new Jedi Academy, located on Yavin 4. The game engine and gameplay is basically the same as Outcast. Gadgets are gone though, but other than that, it's basically the same. I'm playing on the Xbox, and unlike in Outcast, the cutscenes aren't fried to hell. So on our way back, we see someone with a scepter and they knock us out. We wake up to Kyle and Luke, who ask us questions, and they prepare to give us training. I'd also like to mention Gray does some voice acting here. Yet another Star Wars game she's in. And this time, she's Alora the Twi'leks, Sith assassin. And you could totally hear her sounding like Azula from Avatar.
Yes. With all the Jedi in the jungle, it was almost too easy. Excellent.
So it turns out Kyle will be our Jedi Master in this one. He's taking on 2 of the students, and of course the second student is Rosh. We go through a series of training, which acts as a tutorial, and also Rosh treats it like a competition and tries to hurt us.
Hey, Jaden, this should keep you busy till I finish the course. So, did I win?
It wasn't a competition.
I'm sorry,
I'm not the one you should be apologizing to.
It's no big deal. You said yourself this wasn't a competition.
Hey, it was just a joke. I didn't think it would...
If that droid was set to Luke's training regimen, it would have killed Jaden. What were you thinking?
Jaden, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I mean, I wasn't trying to...
Save it, Rosh.
Jaden, you have a right to be angry. But believe me when I say you don't want to feed that emotion.
From here you get to choose your own levels, so that's really cool. It presents you with 5, and you only have to do 4 to move on, but doing 5 will grant you a bonus point to add to your force powers, so that's always worth it for me. And you can do these missions in any order. So for the first one I picked, I had to gather parts while these giant fucking sandworms would come out of the ground, and they'd eat you if you touched the sand too much. And there's actually multiple worms, and they can be scary as shit, and this one's less about like combat and more about platforming and collecting, and it's a really cool level, and this game's gonna give you a lot of variety with its levels, honestly. Our second mission takes us to Tatooine, where me and Chewbacca fight a bunch of mercenaries while Kyle's off gathering information. After that, unfortunately, Rosh gets to speak.
Ever wonder if your master is holding you back? You know, making sure you don't become too powerful?
Why would you say that?
Well, Kyle doesn't seem to really foster my talents.
Next we need to rescue a droid, which means fighting sand people and Jawas. Honestly a pretty fun level, and just like the previous one, it's mainly action based. Our next level starts with a mention of Jan's, and I honestly have no idea what she's doing. Like, she's not in this game, but I assume her and Kyle are still together. This level mixes it up a little bit by making us have to stop a runaway train while fighting mercenaries and some Sith. These dudes are known as the Cult of Ragnos. They aren't Sith technically, but they have sabers and dark force powers, and I'll probably be calling them Sith sometimes. Our last level involves us taking on the Empire to turn off some bombs. And in this game, some of the force powers are far stronger than they were in Outcast, especially the lightning, leading me to basically be a god of lightning. Making Force Unleashed guy, what's his name, Starkiller, he looks kinda weak compared to me sometimes. So after that we learn about the Disciples of Ragnos, which is what this cult is. They're stealing Force energy and they're able to give it to some of their members. So they're going to places that are powerful in the Force, including places Luke has been. So Luke sends us off to Hoth because he's been there before. And every time you finish your 5 missions, it gives you this big multi-part story mission, and then you'll get 5 more missions. So this is our big multi-part story mission. So in Hoth we get to ride Tauntauns, and also get the visibility of Morrowind. Just look how far I can see in front of me. We also have to fight a Wampa, and we have to cut his arm off. We battle through snow troopers and AT-ATs, and unlike previous games, this game does not make it a maze where you go, where the fuck do I go? Usually it's pretty easy. However, there are 2 spots in this level I could see someone having trouble with, and it's hard to know whether to critique them or not, because I've played this so many times, I don't think about like, oh, would this be tricky to find? But this might be tricky to find, so I'll just show you. It's here, you go here. We also end up fighting Alora.
Maker who neutralized our perimeter guard. Are the Jedi stretched so thin that Skywalker sends children to battle the Disciples of Ragnos? We'll meet again. Whelp.
After we get back, we learn Rosh hasn't returned from his mission, and they aren't sure where he is. And they also promote me to apprentice and give me more missions. I guess I wasn't an apprentice before, perhaps I was a Padawan, is that below apprentice? I don't really know the levels of this. But now I am an apprentice. This gives me a different saber style that I can use. Also, weren't Jedi, like, they used to be raised, like, really young, right? And they had to work a real long time to probably get to rank apprentice. And I did like 5 missions. Oh well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So my first mission involves me saving a bunch of prisoners from a Hutt who's going to feed them to a Rancor. And you can actually kill the Rancor if you get him stuck on the door. You can just like shoot him a bunch or try to blow him up with bombs. But a new one will appear. Basically, you just need to distract the Rancor while the prisoners escape on Kyle's ship. Our next level is a speeder bike level, and it doesn't control well at all. Yeah, I'm not actually a big fan of this level, but I do appreciate the variety. Then we have another Empire fight, but this time we are placing targets for members of the Rogue Squadron to blow up. That's right, the Rogue Squadron. We got like a little crossover level with them here. Next we have a Coruscant level here, and we need to track down a crime lord to bring to justice, and I gotta say I just love how much thought and care they put into each mission to make it have something special about it, to make it different. By far the best levels of any of the Dark Forces games so far. I can say I could see why someone could be disappointed by this, right? Because it barely feels like a Dark Forces game. Like, yeah, it's running the same engine as Outcast, but we're barely using guns, we're not playing as Kyle. I get it. Perhaps it should have been its own thing and had its own name, and yeah, I could agree to that. But that doesn't make it a bad game. I mean, people look at Outcast as the best, and I will never understand that ever. This one beats Outcast by so much, in my opinion. This is hands down one of the greatest Star Wars experiences out there. Our next level has our lightsaber taken from us. We're a prisoner, and this dude likes to hunt prisoners for sport. So we have to find guns and take him out to escape without the use of our lightsaber. Which is pretty cool, because that forces us to use those guns, because, like I said before, we don't use our guns very much here. So with our 5 missions finished, we get sent off to Vajun, home of Darth Vader's castle. That's right, he had a castle. His place is pouring down acid rain, and that's harmful to us, causing us to have to use various methods to avoid it, or to take minimal damage. Kyle is also with us for this mission, which is great because enemies here are tough and they can hurt you bad, so it's nice to have him around. We also deal with more cultists from the Disciples of Ragnos, and this is more cultists than we've dealt with so far. This one has the most amount of puzzles yet, but they aren't like difficult, so don't worry about those. The game is far more focused on action and way less puzzles and figuring out where to go. After fighting a bunch of cultists, we finally get to see Rosh. He's alive, and with these dudes. And he's turned to the dark side. It then turns out that the main villain is Tavion from the previous game, and Rosh is with her, partly because of, I think he feels held back and so he wanted more power, but also partly he definitely has a crush on her. Kyle shows up seeing Tavion, which you think would be traumatic, as she almost killed his girlfriend, and now here she is almost killing one of his students. But no, Kyle's just like, oh hi, you aren't in charge. Where's your boss? Tavion's like, Ragnos is my boss. And then Kyle's like,
Ragnos? What can a dead Sith Lord give you?
Anyway, they get away, and now we get to pick if we want one blade, or we want 2 sabers, or we want this double-bladed saber staff. And I choose the staff, and off we go into our next 5 missions. First one's really enjoyable, where we explore the Sith tomb and we remove all the fucking cultists there.
Come get me, Jedi! Die, Jedi!
Our next mission involves a mutant Rancor, and it's even bigger than the regular Rancor, and none of our weapons or powers damage it. We have to survive it and try to find something that can kill it. And a bunch of cultists are there as well, also getting killed. Then we have a level where we fight the Empire and some Nogri while trying to make it to the top of the tower. Then we have an Imperial ship we get captured on, and we have to fight our way to the tractor beam to release our ship. And it also includes a mediocre turret section. And last off, we have a mission where we have to deploy bombs while dodging Boba Fett. And this is extra interesting, right? Because Kyle fought Boba Fett in his first game, and we end up fighting him here in this one. Anyway, so 5 missions later, and Luke fucking realizes, hey, Tavion might be trying to use the Force to resurrect Marcos Ragnos, the powerful Sith Lord. Like, she said that was her boss, her master, and she can transfer Force, and he just figured this out. He just figured it out. Like, no shit, Luke. I could have guessed that by finding out their name was the Disciples of Ragnos, and we didn't think, oh, maybe Ragnos was their boss? But this means an all-out Jedi vs. Sith battle is about to take place on Korriban, the home planet of the Sith. But first we are off to save Rosh, because for some reason, like why the fuck? I don't know, he sent out a distress signal, and you'd think, oh, this is probably a trap, but Kyle's like, we gotta go do it. And why the fuck would I care? I don't like Rosh. So then we have a multi-part mission fighting the Emperor and cultists on this off-brand Mustafar, and at last we make it to Rosh.
Rosh!
Jaden!
You don't look like much of a captive, Rosh. Did you dream this up, or was it Tavion's idea?
No, Jaden, wait! I was wrong. Please! Take me back to the academy. I need help. Jaden, stay back! Please don't hurt me.
You tried to kill me, and now you've lured me into a trap.
Jaden, I was scared. You have to believe me. We're friends, remember? Let's get out of here before Alora comes back.
How do I know you won't betray me again? You're always trying to beat me. How do I know this isn't just another trick?
So here we pick light or dark side. If we put our saber away, we are on the light side. If we kill Rosh, we are on the dark side. Now obviously, killing Rosh is the right answer. It is the right thing to do in my mind. But I will do both. I'll start off with the good one, and I'll put my saber away.
I'm sorry, Rosh. You're right. I almost let my anger get the best of me. Let's get out of here.
Thank you, Jaden.
You Jedi are blandly predictable. Tavion thought that turning you would gain us an ally. But since you won't be turned, I guess it's up to me to clean up her mistake. You are nothing. No match for mine.
Rosh! Rosh!
I'll be...
Sith spit. I need to get him to a bacta tank. Go to Korriban and help Luke and the others. I'll be there as soon as I can.
And off we go to Korriban to fight the cultists. And a bunch of Jedi are there to help, so that's really cool. Makes it feel like an actual battle. This is the most challenging but most fun set of levels, because Korriban is all fucking cultists. We then go to Tavion, who is resurrecting Ragnos. We fight her, and then after a bit, his spirit comes out and possesses her. And honestly, he looks pretty awesome. This final battle is far easier than the battles in the previous games, but it's still fun. Then we fight possessed Tavion, and we kill her, which sends Ragnos back to his grave. And he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for us meddling kids and our Kyle. The cultists lost their powers, and Kyle, Jaden, and Rosh give us an ending talk about how great we are. Blah, 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 blah. Now let's be bad.
Jaden, no! Let go of your anger!
Why should I? You yourself said how powerful the dark side was.
I was wrong!
No, you were weak.
Jaden, no!
Well done, Jedi. You have become one of us.
No!
Join us. With Marka Ragnos as our master, we will defeat the Jedi and rule the galaxy.
Join you? Why should I trade one master for another? The scepter of Ragnos is too powerful to be left in the hands of someone as weak as Tavion. If anything, it should belong to me!
Kyle?
Rosh,
I'm sorry. Jaden has turned. You've lost both your students.
no. You are a Jedi.
Thank you.
But I've still lost Jaden. Where did he go?
So the Korriban level is the same, except one big difference. The Jedi, they're not on your side, so you gotta fight both the Jedi and the cultists, making it more like a hard mode than anything. I really love it though. In this version, Jaden wants the scepter for himself, so you do fight Tavion, but she doesn't get to awaken Marcos Ragnos. Also, this scene is so funny with my Keldor pixelated eye.
I will not cower, as I did before Katarn. Finish it. Kill me.
Jaden, stop! Don't get in my way, Kyle!
Jaden, I know you're angry, but it's not too late to renounce the dark side. Tavion and her cult has been stopped. We can end this here.
Oh no. This is just the beginning.
And then we fight Kyle. We end up escaping with the scepter and Luke and Kyle talk. Kyle feels like a failure and quits the Jedi. His only goal now is to find Jaden. And that's how it ends. Well, the story isn't anything amazing. The fact we had so much and even got it to experience different aspects of being a Jedi really makes this a lot of fun for me. Plus, I just really like this game. Now, just like the previous game, there's a lot of online modes, and I spent so many hours playing this online with friends. We would have LAN parties where we would have our own computers and we'd play locally with each other. The Xbox version cannot have as many bots as the PC version, and even though the Xbox version allows up to 6 bots, don't play with 6 because it'll act up. You gotta play with like 5 or less. PC version you can go ham though, but I honestly don't recommend a shit ton of bots. It gets cluttered. The multiplayer alone is fun enough to buy the game if you didn't even want the single player. On top of that, there's still tons and tons of mods for this game on multiplayer because people still play this multiplayer. So like, you can't do it on the Xbox, but on the PC you can still play with a bunch of people. I have this mod that lets me play the Episode 1 Darth Maul fight in which I could be Maul or Qui-Gon or OB. I got a mod for playing as Anakin and executing Order 66 at the Jedi Temple. I got a mod for a Luke Vader battle from Return of the Jedi. And I even got some KOTOR stuff. There's this end-level Darth Revan versus Darth Malak fight on KOTOR. And how cool is that? Plus, the regular multiplayer modes have a ton more weapons and skins. Some of my favorite being the Trade Federation ship from Episode 1. This Theed level just looks super pretty to me, and even though these are kind of outdated graphics, it still looks good to me. You can even play as Marcos Ragnos, you can play as Darth Talon, the badass Twi'lek Sith who people compare to Darth Maul. You can play as motherfucking General Grievous, or Din Djarin from Mandalorian, which is harder because you get no force powers, but it's still really cool to play as. Anyway, point being, I love this game, I still play this game, and if you haven't, maybe you should play this game. And, yeah, this whole series, I would say overall, is good. There was definitely hiccups, there's definitely issues, but I feel like my favorites were the first and the last game, weirdly.